Hello, everyone, and here we have a news story. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics in the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail. Broadcast news stories. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. My wife and I moved to live in a new city. I was offered a new position. That was the main reason, for a change of residence. This place was closer to the south. The climate here was also much nicer. All our friends stayed 1,000 kilometers away. Of course, we see each other much less now. My wife had to look for a new job, but she was very lucky. Almost immediately, she found a good job in the very center of the city, not a dusty office job. My wife has made new friends. One of her friends has been working since the very beginning of the company's foundation. She knew all the nuances and pitfalls in her work. First, she helped my wife join the team. They began to communicate even after hours. They say it's hard to find friends at that age, but they became friends for real. Alice was the name of my wife's friend. She was very shy. At the age of 35, Alice didn't find a man she could live with. Dating men was hard for her. Sometimes when meeting a new person, Alice was very nervous. It never came to the second meeting. We had dinner together once, and my wife told me that Alice was abandoned by a man. My wife is going to support a friend, and she's going to go to a cafe with her. I immediately realized that my wife was hiding something. Most likely, they will go to the bar. I decided to ask directly, "Are you sure you're going to the cafe, or are you going to the bar?" My wife hesitated and answered me very quietly, "I do not know what kind of institution it is. I'm going there for the first time. It's only good without the booze." I said sternly, "It's just that Alice came to our house one day. They were drinking with my wife all night. After all, my wife Poe promised me this, that everything will be fine, without any excesses in booze." The next day, she went to meet Alice. In fact, Alice lied to my wife. No one left her. Alice is so tired of being alone that she had just embarked on an adventure. Alice has arranged a short date. This event was organized by local men. The tables in the bar were arranged in a circle. There were two people at each table, a man and a woman. Age was absolutely not important. The main rule is that you must be over 18 years old. Men were changing tables every minute, and so people talked in a circle, in the hope that someone will be interested in each other. In the end, some continued their communication further. My wife thought until the last moment that she was just going to sit in a cafe. When she went inside, my wife saw the whole situation. She immediately asked this question with a puzzled expression on her face. "Where are you taking me, Alice?" "It's a quick date, or what?" my wife asked indignantly. Alice replied that she really wanted to try it, but she was very afraid to go alone. "Do you know that I have a husband?" my wife screamed. "Yes, you don't have to participate in this. Just sit like an ordinary spectator," Alice assured her. But at this event, it was impossible to be in the role of a spectator. That's why my wife was put at one of the tables. As my wife told me later, that she just didn't want to cause a scandal. Everyone was in a good mood. The wife was sitting at the table, and I thought every man, which will suit her. She will immediately say that she is a married woman. And now the event has begun. The presenter explained the rules to everyone once again. Then they turned on the music and gave the command to start. The first 5 people, who was sitting next to my wife, instantly deflated. The wife immediately showed him the ring on her hand. The next young guys, they said it was even more interesting that way. His wife was already looking at her watch. She was wondering when this disgrace would end. At that moment, Alice was sorting through the men one by one, and then he sat down next to my wife, a very handsome man. He had clouded her mind. She immediately hid her hand under the table, so that the man does not see the wedding ring on his hand. "I noticed you as soon as you entered the hall," the man said in a languid voice. "I saw your ring. You have nothing to worry about," he continued. "We'll just get to know each other better and have a little chat. It's not a crime." He grinned. His name was Adam, and it turned out that he also had a wife, but he said his wife knows that he goes to such events and he does it for the sake of business acquaintances. Many businesswomen have problems in family life, such short dates. Women were saving their time, so Adam was apparently looking for business partners. A minute of their communication passed for a pleasant conversation. He was able to interest my wife in 1 minute. At first, my wife was very ashamed, but on the offer to have coffee with him the next day, she agreed with satisfaction. He invited my wife to a nice restaurant, and he left her his business card as a farewell. My wife came home pretty early. I asked, "How was your meeting with Alice?" My wife replied that everything was fine. She decided not to talk about today's event. According to her, she decided to save her nerves. Allegedly, she did nothing wrong. My wife was silent all evening. She sat looking thoughtfully at one point. This business card was in her pocket. I found this business card. Well, I decided not to say anything either. I was watching my wife. She hasn't been herself all week. She was taciturn. She began to see her friend Alice much more often. I wasn't a sensitive person once. I didn't suspect my wife. I just believed that she was loyal to me. But when I started noticing her strange behavior, I started thinking about all this. One day I was coming back from work. I saw my wife's friend with some man. They had fun walking in the park. Finally, I thought, she'll leave my wife alone. When I got home, I decided to talk to my wife. I started the conversation from afar. "How's Alice doing?" "Oh, what a pity that her new boyfriend dumped her again." We stayed at her house for several hours. She kept complaining to me. My wife answered me. At that moment, I was very surprised. I saw with my own eyes a happy Alice in the park. I immediately realized that my wife definitely wasn't going to spend the evening with Alice, but I could hardly keep calm. A plan immediately matured in my head. It is necessary to organize surveillance of my wife. The next time she goes to a meeting, one day I arrived early at the place where my wife worked. I see my wife coming out of the building, and she went to some black car. A man met her near the car. He kissed her and handed her a bouquet of flowers. All my suspicions were confirmed. I was sitting there, filled with anger. I could barely contain my emotions. The car moved off. I decided to follow them. They were heading towards the hotel. I already knew how it would end. I decided to wait and catch my wife in the hot. I was sitting in the car and fighting with myself. Very bad thoughts crept into my head. Eventually, I entered the hotel and went up to the room, in which there was a man with my wife. It was hard for me to breathe, but I tried to hear what was going on behind the door. And then I heard my wife moaning. I started pulling on the handle of the front door, but it was closed. I didn't break down the doors. In a cold sweat, I went downstairs and got in the car. I decided to wait for a couple outside. After a while, I decided to call my wife. She didn't pick up the phone for a long time. Eventually, she picked up the phone. I asked where she was, to which she replied that she would be home soon. I heard her breathing quicken on the phone. I didn't give myself away in any way. I said I was really waiting for her. After another 2 hours, I saw my wife coming out of the hotel. The man comes up to her and hugs her. They are very happy. I abruptly ran out of the car. I ran up to the couple in love and hit my wife very hard in the face with the palm of my hand. After that, I sat my wife's lover on his ass with one blow. I decided to take a breath. "What a bitch you are," I shouted to my wife. "Come on, give me the keys quickly. I don't want to see you in my house anymore." The wife, confused, started rummaging in her purse. With trembling hands, she handed me the keys. She wanted to tell me something, but I wasn't listening. I turned around and walked back to my car. The only thing I noticed was the ring on his hand, so he was married too. When I got home, I viciously started packing my wife's things into bags. Then I remembered the business card I found earlier. I showed my ingenuity, and I found out information about the company and this person. In the end, I found this lover's wife. I made an appointment and told her everything I had seen. His wife sat in horror. One can only guess what she did to him and how she treated him. But the most interesting thing was completely different. It turned out that she was a friend of the boss at the firm where my wife worked. In the end, the wife was fired. Perhaps, of course, not without outside help. She was left without a home and a job. Even Alice's best friend, she didn't take my wife in because she finally found a man, and she was not up to a friend at all. That's the whole story from my life. Share it in the comments. What do you think about this situation? What would you do in my place? I will wait and be sure to read all the comments. And now let's move on to the words of the author of the channel. Channel author's advice. Dear friend, it is obvious that you have had a turbulent and emotionally difficult experience. Discovering your wife's infidelity is undoubtedly painful, and this situation has negatively affected your emotional well-being. It's important to acknowledge your feelings and give yourself time to digest everything that happened. I really understand you and your emotions. I've experienced it for myself as well as millions of people. It's natural to experience a whole range of emotions, from anger and betrayal to sadness and confusion. Allow yourself to experience these emotions without judgment. Focus on your well-being by following a healthy lifestyle, doing what you like, and seeking support from friends, family, or a counselor. Remember that you are not alone in solving such problems. Many people have coped with similar situations and become stronger and wiser. Give yourself permission to heal and move forward, even if the journey may be difficult. Over time, you will gain clarity and find a way to a more fulfilling future. Friends, what can you say? Support the guy and show him that he's not alone. We are waiting for your comments. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.